it's gay to be in touch with your emotions, or at least that's what I used to think. I used to think that by me as a man understanding emotions and feelings and crying or laughing and feeling anything in its wholeness was girly or feminine or gay. But since going through a spiritual awakening, I've really stepped into emotional intelligence and understanding myself through the lens of my emotions, understanding the world through the lens of my emotions. And I know that you've had a similar experience with that as well.
Mm-hmm. Emotional intelligence was really the key for everything in my spiritual awakening, because it was understanding myself on a level that I had never dove into before.
And what does emotional intelligence mean to you?
I think emotional intelligence means a lot to me. I think there's a lot that goes into it. I think self-awareness and understanding yourself through emotion is a huge part of it. I think that the way you can comprehend your emotions and be able to express them and communicate them to somebody else is also a massive part of it. Those two pieces for me is kind of how I have navigated through understanding my own emotional intelligence and recognizing it in other people.
So how do we start understanding our emotions?
Yeah, it's a journey. I did a lot of like journal reflection into the darker side of my emotions, which kind of led me into understanding all of my emotions as a whole. Some people call it shadow work. I basically just prompted journal prompts into asking myself questions that made me uncomfortable, and just getting them down on paper in and of itself was brought up emotion and was uncomfortable and kind of shameful of it. And should I really write that down? Is that too taboo? And so just the act in and of itself was bringing up a lot of emotion for me. And then coming back to it was a whole separate exercise, because now I have to read what I have written and process my emotion in real time, reading what I wrote, but also taking me back to whatever moment I was writing about. So there was a lot going on when it came to the shadow work, but that was really where I found like a deep understanding of my emotions and how my brain processes emotions.
Well, it's understanding the socialization process too.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding why you feel something now is because you felt something in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Our entire lives, our existence as human beings is basically given to us by our parents, by the people who raised us. They created us. We create ourselves, but they gave us the information to piece the world together, to piece ourselves together. So like by you going into your past and writing it all down, you're quite literally making sense of that puzzle that is you.
Yep,
that puzzle
exactly.
that is Deanna makes sense now that you started writing it down and understanding and asking yourself questions. And the biggest part of going back is so that you can free up your future. Mm-hmm. Because those past emotions will keep you enslaved to them. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that you've found that those past emotions hold you down. They limit you. They are your limiting beliefs. That is your limit. When you don't understand why you become angry at certain things, when you don't understand how your outbursts of sadness have ruined your life, you know, and cause you so much hardship, or how you live in a perpetual worry cycle like my mom does. Even when other people tell you how this is how you are, you still refuse to notice it.
Yeah. And human beings at our core are emotion. We operate from emotion. And it's so interesting that when traumatic things happen, our brain compartmentalizes it, puts it in a little cute little box, maybe not cute, box with a lock on it, and buries it somewhere in your psyche. But your body remembers it. So you can store everything away that you don't want to remember or you don't want to think about or makes you uncomfortable and guilty and anxious. You can throw that all away, but it still lives inside of your body. It never goes away. So you have to be able to go in and process things, or you're just like stuck in all of those spots, operating from all of that stuff that you stored away.
Because emotion means energy in motion. And if you allow that energy to be stagnant, if you experience deep sadness, if you experience extreme fear, and then you just tuck it away forever, that energy gets stagnant. In the same way that you don't want to drink water out of a pond with green algae all over the top of it, that's your emotions. That's your body when you keep your body stagnant. When you don't move your body to process your emotions. When you don't talk your emotions out loud, communicate yourself. Whether interpersonally or with yourself, voice journaling, with journaling physically.
Whatever
creating,
your medium is.
Whatever the medium is getting those emotions out of your brain. And I found creativity to be a huge catalyst for me to process those emotions. So for me, it's been songwriting and poetry and art, painting, drawing, playing guitar. It's all of that is super cathartic for me to be able to take my emotions and not let them manifest stagnantly in my body, but allow myself to keep that energy in motion, flowing through me as if I'm a river. I'm a river of energy rather than a pond.
Still.
Exactly.
Stuck.
It's the difference between being wealthy and sitting on a whole bunch of money and being sad and being affluent. Money and energy flowing through you, love flowing through you. That's the idea of these emotions, these energies. Don't take it and hold it, because what's good is it doing there? Take it and let it process through you and put it out into the world in its raw form.
And dance with it.
Exactly.
So a lot of the things that you said help you process your emotions are feminine. As a man, how did you come to terms with getting there and getting rid of those limiting beliefs of this is feminine?
Well, when I really dove into self-awareness, when I had this spiritual awakening in college, 2020 or so, or began the spiritual awakening, it's a constant unfolding.
Never really ends, yeah.
And when I began to look into self-awareness and how do I deepen my relationship with myself? How do I deepen my relationship and understanding of the world? And it all came back to emotional intelligence. It all came back to understanding myself through my emotions, because as you said, every human being is just emotions. We are emotions. We are energy in motion. Quite literally.
That's all we are.
We are energy in motion, having this human conscious experience as this ego. So these emotions that we feel is everything to creating the life that we want to live. The whole reason that you go out into the world, the reason that you desire to create anything, have a job, create a family, create a business, is because you desire to feel something. And a feeling and emotion are different topics, but that's a different conversation. But when we have this desire to feel these emotions that are high vibrational, we want to be feeling in love all the time. We want to feel in flow. We want to feel blissful and joyous and grateful for the life that we've created. And we don't want to feel shameful for the life that we're living. We don't want to feel guilty of our past. And we don't want to be reliving the good old days. That's a terrible.
The good old days.
Exactly. That's an existence we don't want to live. So for me, understanding emotions and how I can utilize them and alchemize them to set myself up for a life that I love living was why I dove into emotional intelligence and understanding it. It was through texts like David R. Hawkins' Power versus Force. It was through reading The Law of One. It was through reading a whole bunch of books. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People was a big one for me in understanding as well. It was about me deepening my relationship with myself so that I could understand myself, the world, and create this life that I love living. all by just asking myself these questions and processing the energy that I already have.
Yeah. And when you ask yourself those uncomfortable questions, at least for me, like, it wasn't always an immediate answer. Like, maybe that moment in time, like, I still wasn't ready to journal about it. Maybe I still wasn't ready to voice journal about it. Like, maybe I came back to that same question 7 times before I actually had a breakthrough. So you do have to, like, be patient with yourself, because there is a lot of resistance to work through emotion inside of your body. And if you really drop in, you can feel the resistance to just start doing it. I don't know if you had that experience.
Yeah, because you are quite literally addicted to your own struggles.
Yeah.
You are addicted to your own pain.
Yeah.
And it is uncomfortable for you to step outside of your known universe and create something outside of it. So when you say, I don't want to feel guilty anymore for my past.
And you go in and you start writing down all the shit you feel guilty about. God damn, is that hard.
It's difficult.
It's very difficult.
Because what you're doing is you held on to that guilt as a part of you. Mm-hmm. That guilt has become you. Mm-hmm. But when you hold on to that guilt and associate it with yourself, you're no greater than it. Because you are no greater than the emotions that you hold and you are attached to. But when you can take the initiative to consciously process those emotions and free up that space to live a life of abundance, of affluence, to be able to step into the emotions that you want to be feeling, because all those you only have so much space. Mm-hmm. You have to create space,
and your body will physically start to show that to you in physical ailments. The unprocessed emotion over time becomes that dis-ease in your body.
Disease in the mind, disease in the body is all because of high levels of stress, of low levels of emotional intelligence.
I'll give an example of in my own physical body. So I got tonsillitis once a month, every month for about 1.5 years. And tonsillitis is basically like infection in your throat, and the pain is so bad in your throat, you actually like can't even drink water. So for 1 month, for 1.5 years, every single month, I would get tonsillitis. And it was driving me crazy. The first couple of months, it was like, okay, like what's going on? Take the antibiotic, and like repeating this cycle, right? And like that's a whole separate sort of issue, because I was on every antibiotic under the sun, which is separately really bad for your body. But I was stuck in this loop of get sick, take the antibiotic, get better, get sick, take the antibiotic. So it was just like perpetual. And around the like 6-month mark, I was like hysterically crying. And I was just like, what is wrong? Like, what is my body trying to tell me that I can't see right now, that I can't understand and comprehend? And through a lot of self-discovery and like sitting down with myself and figuring out like what the fuck is going on right now in my physical body that's going on in my emotional body, and it all boiled down to not being my authentic self. I was like just operating through the world as like this facade that I put up, and it wasn't me. And my body was done not being me. And your throat is represented energetically with your throat chakra. So my throat was getting infected once a month, every month, because I was not speaking my truth. And then as soon as I started speaking my truth, everything changed. Yeah.
So did you realize that while you had the ailment, or did you realize that in retrospect?
So I realized that about 8 months into this process of getting sick once a month. And I honestly, I ran through everything else before I resorted to my emotions, because I wasn't there yet in my awareness. And I was like, maybe it's all the weed I smoke. Maybe it's the backwoods. Maybe, I was thinking of all the things that could be affecting my throat. I was like maybe I need a new toothbrush. Like maybe let me start tongue scraping. Like I was thinking about all the things except my emotions. And that day when I was crying, I was just so frustrated with being sick all the time. And yeah, I just remember like saying to myself, like to my body, like, what are you trying to tell me? Because clearly you're trying to tell me something. Like this is a cycle and like, I want to break it. So like, tell me how to break it. And that was what came through for me. So it took a while to, obviously not overnight. You're like, oh, I'm my authentic self. We're all good now. Like that took time and shedding a lot of friendships that no longer served me and those sort of things. So I was still getting sick, but I was becoming aware of why I was getting sick.
Because your surroundings reinforce these beliefs that you have about yourself.
Exactly. So the process of shedding that was hard.
It's difficult to change. It's difficult to become who it is that you want to be when you have people around you telling you are who you don't want to be.
Exactly. And when you're changing so drastically and your friends or your family or your loved ones are somewhere else or still there, it's hard for you to get out of it.
Because
they kind of just
they reinforce who you were.
Exactly.
And they pull you away from becoming and changing.
Yep.
Because people don't like dreamers. The world inherently does not like people with big dreams. Mm-hmm. People don't like people with big dreams because it makes them feel inferior. Mm-hmm. So it's difficult to share.
Let's all be small. It's like,
exactly.
Come on.
It's easier for all of us to be small.
Mm-hmm.
But when you say, fuck that, mm-hmm. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to be the cause rather than the effect. Mm-hmm. I remember you telling me your dad used to say, like, be the hammer, not the nail.
Yeah.
That's a matter of fact.
It's on a flag
truth.
Somewhere. Yeah.
It's truth. It's be the cause, not the effect in the world. And by understanding who you are and why you are the way that you are, you can begin to transmute that energy that you're feeling, because energy and motion, your emotions are raw energy. It's not that your emotions are this thing, this label. Oh, this is anger and this is love and this is bliss. No, it's energy. And you're simply just putting a filter on that energy. Right? Like your mind is sticking a label on that energy and calling it one thing.
Just to help you understand it.
Right? But it's raw energy at the end of the day. So us as human beings, as these energetic beings, mm-hmm. can utilize our consciousness to transmute that energy into something that we desire to feel. So rather than feeling angry all the time, transmute that anger into its counterpart of passion. Mm-hmm. Right? Like in understanding that, you can quite literally make that change in your life rather than being the effect of the world. You can understand why you're feeling these things, why these emotions are manifesting, why these situations are habitually happening, understanding your feedback loop that the days you constantly live, and you can be the cause rather than the effect.
Yeah. And that's how emotional intelligence changes your fucking life.
That's how it changes your life. It's
changed my life.
It's changed my life drastically. Yeah. And it's the number one thing that you can begin to do to understand yourself.
And you'll start attracting in people who also are emotionally intelligent and be able to have conversations with friends and with a partner that is emotionally intelligent.
Because a part of emotional intelligence is being able to communicate those emotions, and it's vulnerable to communicate your emotions, mm-hmm. which ties it back to being a man. And how we started this is, I thought it was gay, mm-hmm. is because it's inherently feminine to be in touch with yourself. It's mm-hmm. feminine to create. It's feminine to do things that are vulnerable, mm-hmm. right? And as a man, no, like, let's put our walls up and let's be macho and mm-hmm. flex our muscles and tough. Mm-hmm. And it's not manly to cry, but it is fucking manly to cry.
Yeah, it's more manly to cry actually than to not cry. So yeah, let that shit out.
Yeah, it's more manly to be able to be in touch with yourself and connect with your partner, your loved one, on a deep level, because you can understand her so she can understand you.
Yeah. And like, let your lady hold space for you as a man, you know?
That's manly.
That's manly because our world is not operated to let you, our world is not operated to hold space for men, right? It's not. And when you're in the comfort and love of a woman, let her hold the space for you.
If you're a man, cry in your girl's arms.
No, really though, like it's healing. Right? Like it's healing. Tell her you love her and start crying about it. She'll love that.
Yeah. That's our relationship tip for the day. Yeah, just be vulnerable, understand yourself, ask yourself questions.
Write them down. Do a little voice journal, like whatever your shtick is, whatever's easiest for you. I love the voice memo. Sometimes I'm not always in the mood to journal. So whatever floats your boat, just get it out.
Process it. Keep it in motion. You're in motion. You're an energetic being in an eternal, infinite, conscious universe. You are part of the one living organism. The all, God, whatever you want to call it. You are part of it. So keep processing it. Don't separate yourself because you want to be this ego and you want to be all separate. No, just fucking feel it. Feel it. Feel it. Feel it. Feel it. That's all I got for you. Emotional intelligence. It's the key. I'm Cory. She's Deanna. Click subscribe on here. We have all videos about consciousness, spirituality, spiritual awakening, all that good stuff. So click that next video somewhere on the bottom of the screen. Love you.
Bye.